Wouldn't it be nice to have several thought leaders in your industry know and love your brand? Start a podcast. Invite your industry's thought leaders to be guests on your show and start reaping the benefits of having a network full of industry influencers. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show.
Welcome back to the B2B Growth Show. I'm your host for today's episode, Logan Lyles, Director of Partnerships here at Sweetfish Media. I am joined today by Karie Daudt. She is the VP of Marketing and Customer Experience at Insite Software. Karie, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you for joining us. We're going to be talking about aligning your B2B sales team with digital e-commerce today. Before we do that, Karie, I would love for you to quickly share with listeners who you are, a little bit about your background, and what you and the Insite Software team are up to these days.
Sounds great. I have started my career kind of in distribution in a lot of variety of roles. I have been in sales, went into manufacturing, and from there into product management, product marketing, sales. So I've had a really broad experience in the B2B space. And then 4 years ago, decided that I really wanted to round out my digital and my commerce experience and really have a really good idea of how manufacturers and distributors can really deal with their digital challenges, which is a big disruption in their business today. And through that time here, Insite is a B2B e-commerce solution. We also provide analytics, we provide mobile apps, but everything is really focused on that manufacturing and distributor. So it's a great fit for me. It's a lot of fun. I really enjoy helping customers, prospects be successful in their digital journey.
Yeah, very cool to see how you're able to use various experiences in that broad range of experiences across different functional roles in what you're doing today. That's very cool. Karie, so let's dive right into our topic today. So as I mentioned, we're going to be talking about how to align your sales team with your e-commerce efforts. And one of the things you mentioned that I thought was intriguing as we were chatting offline is many of the tactics in B2C marketing e-commerce systems are really just flash in B2B. Can you explain that for us a little bit?
I would love to. It's probably one of my biggest frustrations. So the B2B space, this commerce and this digital is fairly new. I mean, there's a lot of companies that have tried it, they've dabbled in it, they went into it looking at it as a website, right? And the reality is it's not. It's really transformational to your business. It's really about your go-to-market strategy. So there's a lot of opportunity in the B2B space. So you see a lot of B2C e-commerce platforms looking at the space and going, I want a piece of that pie, and entering into the space. Mm-hmm. And then they really focus on, a lot of these B2B companies are looking for these marketers who have B2B experience, and there's just not a lot of them. So they're pulling from that B2C space, that retail space. And the challenge is that B2B is so different than B2C. And so you see these B2C marketers who are coming into the market, and they're getting really excited about this flash and the front end and the sex appeal and the personalization and the data-driven analytics and all these things. And the reality is that's not what drives B2B business. If you're a big brand manufacturer, I totally agree that is probably the right approach. But if you're a distributor or a wholesale distributor, or you're a manufacturer of specialty products where you're maybe selling to a machine builder or to another manufacturer, or it's ingredients, all these different products, the reality is that B2B e-commerce is so much about servicing our existing customers. So the reality is that these customers come to your site and maybe you show a catalog exposed and maybe you give a B2B, B2C experience where you show pricing and catalog and availability in front to attract new customers. But customers are logging in, your existing customers are logging in, and they're seeing their catalog, their pricing, their information. That's what matters to them. Well, the reality is you already know who those people are.
Mhm.
And those people need very specific information. They're not shopping, they're buying for their job, or they're researching products to solve a problem in their facility or their project. They're looking for, a really good search experience. They want to find what they need to find quickly, efficiently. They want to get in and they want to get out and they want to move on with their day. So the reality is that getting caught up on that CMS and that front end and making that all about it, the reality in B2B is the user experience is most often driven by the data on the back end in B2B, and that's
Mhm.
not the case in B2C. Does
Mhm.
that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So less about the flash and the growth hacks and the things on the front end that are going to drive new users as in B2C e-commerce, and more how can we use the information about our niche that we're serving very narrowly to make the experience better on the back end. That makes a ton of sense there, Karie. So you're not only focused on driving net new revenue when you're focusing on B2B e-commerce, but cross-sell, upsell opportunities as you make the experience better for your existing customers, right?
Yeah, we think a lot about it as revenue is always a big part of going into B2B e-commerce, but it's really not the only driving factor. And then let's talk about driving revenue, right? Are your goals, maybe you're experiencing customer attrition, right? You're losing customers. So your primary goal is to really stop that, deliver an experience to your existing customers so that they stay with you, so that you're giving them the information that they need on their time. So that's really important. Are you trying to sell more to your existing customer base? In B2B, that's often a primary driver for B2B e-commerce. I want to grow revenue, but I want to grow revenue with my existing customers. So that's where that cross-sell, upsell comes in, maybe promotions. I think a secret weapon in B2B e-commerce is list management. How hard is it to introduce new products to your existing customers, right? With list management, salespeople can create a list of new products, maybe one or two they want to start with, that they can create and then share with their customer right through the commerce platform. And then that customer can log in, they can look at that product, they can ask for samples, they can continue that dialogue conversation based off of just sharing that list. So I like to say that there's a lot of things that B2B e-commerce can do that helps drive engagement between salespeople, traditional salespeople, and their customers, which isn't always easy to do today, that face-to-face. It's not always possible. And then the other things I think about is when you think about revenue is maybe I do want to attract new customers, right? But maybe it's not B2C. I want to look for new B2B customers. I want to focus on a new market in B2B. So all of those things are really important when you think about revenue. And then I think about there's a lot of efficiencies that are gained with B2B e-commerce. You're giving your customers the ability to self-serve, to have access to their data, their information, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Your CSRs aren't there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Your salespeople aren't available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So it really becomes this engagement platform. It really becomes this efficiency driver. So and it also helps your salespeople and your CSRs not get bogged down on, I need to check an order status. I need to check and see if an item has shipped. I need to check and see if an item's in stock. I need to reprint an invoice because I lost my invoice. I need to pay my invoice online. So there's a lot of things that can be gained both in driving revenue and gaining efficiency, which goes directly to your bottom line. And then, like we talked about, building your brand, building your experience with your customers through this platform that drives engagement.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about personalization. I know that's another area where you've seen some stark differences in e-commerce from B2C and B2B. Is that in the setup and the deployment of your e-commerce system? Is it on the sales side as they have more time to focus on, higher level critical thinking on where they can deliver value because they're not being drugged down into the nitty-gritty of the things that are now able to be automated and made more productive by the e-commerce system?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of difference in personalization, right? What you see in B2C personalization is all about the impulse buy. You want that customer, that consumer to buy something they weren't planning on buying, right? We always laugh. But when's the last time a B2B buyer had the ability to make an impulse buy? They can't. They're buying for their jobs. Well, maybe once in a while they can. Maybe that impulse buy is not truly an impulse buy, but it's buying something that they haven't bought from you historically that they used to buy from one of your competitors, as an example, because they didn't know you had it, right? So personalization in B2B is really about who is the person, what is their role, what is their job? So what types of things are really relevant to that person in that job that commerce can serve, that personalization can serve? If I'm a researcher, so in B2B, you have to remember, a lot of times there's a subject matter expert. Maybe it's an engineer, maybe it's a contractor, maybe it's a plumber that is the expert, right? They're the ones who really understand what those products that they need are and the problem that they're solving for. The buyer may or may not be that same person. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. But if it's not, they just want to buy what that subject matter expert said they could buy or that they should buy, right? So there's a lot of different roles. You don't want to be serving up dynamic personalization on a product that's completely not relevant to a buyer who doesn't have the ability to make that decision anyway and is not going to make that impulse buy. So the things that we think about is understanding the role of the person and the role that person serves in their organization. And what do they need? So the personalization becomes, if we talk about cross-sell and upsell, right, that's part of personalization. The dynamic is, if I buy this product, this is an accessory that you need, that you may not know you need, right? And I just present that to you as that this product goes with that product and you're going to need this. Or here's all the accessories that are attached to that specific product that you need to order or may need to order in order to make the product you selected work. Or you bought this product, here's a product that's a like product to that's actually a better product, right? Or we get better pricing on it, so we're presenting it to you with a better price than this other item. Maybe it's an item that I have in stock that's very similar to the item that you selected that wasn't in stock, but you can have it today, and we have it, and it's going to be a great replacement, and it's not going to cause you any grief at all in selecting that product. So personalization is about understanding what people are buying for their company, how often do they buy it, and then building that thought process around that and that dynamic product presentation, representation, and content presentation based on what their patterns are. But a lot of these patterns are occurring behind that login, not in front of that login. So it's a different, now in B2B, you can do dynamic personalization in front of the login as well as behind the login. It may be a little bit more generic in front of the login because you don't have a lot of data about who their persona is, what their job is, what their role, but you do once they log in. So it's really the ability to pivot quickly and present, again, that really relevant information, and you're not trying to go for that impulse buy.
Today's growth story revolves around search engine marketing. Delphix, a big data platform, had hired an agency to manage their Google ads a few years ago, but they weren't seeing the results they wanted to see. Being such a technical B2B solution, they set out to find a team that could take on their challenge. After countless proposals, they found the perfect fit: Directive Consulting, the B2B search marketing agency. In just 1 week after launching Directive's campaigns, Delphix saw their lead volume double and their cost per lead drop by 60%. I have a hunch that Directive can get these kind of results for you too. So head over to directiveconsulting.com and request a totally free custom proposal. That's directiveconsulting.com. All right, let's get back to this interview.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You've got to think about what they need and what they want, but there's more factors playing into it because they're not just an individual buying a product. They are, part of an organization. So there are other factors. I mean, the good thing is you have that information to go off of, or you can find that information. So where do you see, Karie, that organizations in the B2B space are really, aligning their salespeople or enabling their salespeople very well with their e-commerce system? Are there some examples you could give us of folks that are doing a good job of leaning into the productivity gains, the best practices that you're sharing here to enable their sales team for greater success?
Absolutely. The one thing you have to think about in B2B e-commerce is that B2B e-commerce really can't be successful without the support of your salespeople. And let me explain that. Your salespeople in B2B, because again, a lot of times you're dealing with those existing customers, they're going to be your onboarders. They're going to be the people that introduce this digital solution to their customers, right? B2B salespeople, and there's no salesperson I've ever met, let's be honest, that doesn't want to be tied in and connected to their customer. They want to know what that customer is doing. They want to know all the time. So the reality is that in order for e-commerce to be successful, you really need to make it valuable for your salespeople. Help them be able to service their customers better by taking some of those self-service opportunities off of their plates so they can focus on higher value things. Those are some of the things we talk about a lot, right? That list management tool I gave you is a wonderful way for a salesperson to use the e-commerce solution as a communication tool and engagement tool with their customers. Maybe there's a project and that salesperson could sit down and create the bill of materials that the customer asked them for, put it into a list, share it with their customer. The customer can review it, make changes. They can turn it into a request for quote, which all that communication is really going back and forth between your salesperson and your customer, as an example. And then maybe that quote gets created by the salesperson, but maybe it has to go to a sales manager for approval. All of that process can be automated, right? So you're not waiting for those things to happen. You're not dealing with that manual process. So salespeople can be much, much more beneficial and effective to their customers. So, that's one way that e-commerce can be effective. The other thing is the sharing of information. As you look at commerce, if you take commerce, digital commerce, e-commerce, however you want to refer to it, and you understand how important it is to your business, right? This is about making a system of engagement that your salespeople, your CSRs can use this single tool, that the customer interactions are all being really collected in one location and being shared amongst all these different people. All of these things really help enable your salespeople to be more effective, to be more efficient. They have the data they need. And eventually this drives into some of those BI, the business intelligence, right? So maybe as a salesperson, I have a customer who normally reorders, places a big blanket order at the same time. And I can be proactive and reach out to that customer in October, even though they don't normally start placing that order till December, January, to start that process, to really get in and start engaging with them and find out if you can really help them with other things. So again, it can be a reminder to those salespeople about things. Maybe a customer starts dropping off. They start seeing the orders decline. It's a trigger for them that they need to go in and work with these customers. So what a good commerce solution does that's integrated with your ERP and with your sales team and your CSRs, and you're collecting and sharing that customer data and that product data and all of that information, it means that you have a very collaborative tool that's going to allow you, I think it is foundational, right? It gives you the foundation you need to continue to grow and expand. So then you want to add, BI and that business intelligence as an example. You can build off of what you already have if you put that right foundation in. So it's really about thinking about how your business needs to be different tomorrow than it is today, and what you need to do. And
Right.
it's changing so fast that if you don't put in that foundation and get everybody really engaged, that this is the way of the future, this ability to, you're not replacing salespeople, you're not replacing CSRs, right? This tool is completely designed to help enable them to be more successful than they are today.
I love that. Well, Karie, this has been a great conversation. Obviously, a topic that you are very passionate about. So I appreciate you sharing that passion and your expertise in this area with our listeners today. If anybody listening would like to ask you any follow-up questions or stay connected with you, what would be the best way for them to go about doing that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously on LinkedIn is a great way. I'm very active out there, so there's lots of content, there's reports, there's information. They can certainly go to insitesoft.com and put in a note that'll get to me from my team. They can call Insight, right? I'm totally open to having those conversations. Love helping companies be successful, help them think about how digital commerce can be a big part of their business and their success in the future.
I love it. Karie, thank you so much again for joining us on the episode today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. It was great. I really appreciate the time.
Digital marketing agencies have a tough job. You have to stay on top of the latest marketing strategies for your clients and your agency. What if there was a way you could address both at the same time? Imagine your agency putting out content with greater quality and quantity. Envision bringing your clients a turnkey solution for one of B2B marketing's fastest growing media strategies, podcasting. You know, all those clients asking for your help with their account-based marketing efforts? Picture being the first to bring them the idea of content-based networking, showing them the proven strategy for breaking into their most coveted accounts. Here's the concept. Sweetfish Media is looking to work with a limited number of innovative agencies interested in a new partnership model. We produce a podcast for your agency. You introduce the power of podcasting and Sweetfish services to your clients. Everybody wins. Learn more at sweetfishpartners.com.